Okay, cool. I'll go ahead and start. Well, a lot of my work has centered around what I like to call proofs of experience, and that really is just a way of seeing life through the main character's eyes and what they've been through, what they're doing now, and kind of where they're going. And I just like to throw it out there early that I do documentary work, and traditionally in documentary, we would call main characters subjects. But I think that a lot of the documentary community, which I'm in agreement with, is we see that term as objectifying and really dehumanizing. And so I don't like to use the term subject. I much rather prefer like main character or story partner. So Luther is my story partner. It's ultimately Luther's film because it's Luther's story. So the entire documentary, and actually all of my documentaries, are filmed in verite. So that means that I'm not staging anything, I'm not directing him, I'm not scripting him. It's all just Luther being Luther and doing his thing. And so it's all his words and it's all of his story. And he had told me so many things throughout the interview, which I think was like 2.5 hours long, his whole life story. And my job was really just to pick out what he emphasized as the most important parts of his story and make them into a cohesive, beautiful cinematic film, which I think I was able to achieve, and I'm extremely grateful for that. But I definitely pay Luther um, with all of the credit for the film. Um, Most of my films, I mean, I never have a shared theme or a shared goal, but transformation is the one that ultimately sticks out. And what I look for when I'm filming a documentary is interesting people. People who think differently, people who have done things differently, people who have been through stuff. And that is like the good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly. It's all of it. And Luther's story is a lot of that. Um, I don't know what it is about the main characters in my film, but they all seem to be men, which is not something that I looked for or I expected or I aim or I try to like work with men. It's just that I met Luther and he shared really intimate, vulnerable, sensitive parts of himself with me. And I don't think men do that a lot with other men. And so um, all of my films just really have men who are vulnerable and brave and are willing to share their failures and their struggles and their sensitive, intimate parts with me, which I think is really special. I think that everyone I've worked with on any film is very special. Um, and so I actually met Luther on a piece of property called the Farm at Penny Lane, and it's on the edge of Pittsburgh Chapel Hill. And it's essentially a farm where people with severe mental illness can go just to gain life skills and have some peace and quiet in nature. So you can work in the garden there, take some cooking classes, go to like creative writing groups and art groups and music groups. But Luther's not a part of any of those groups or like the community, as you could say, at the farm at Penny Lane. He lives at the farm at Penny Lane, but he maintains the property. And so he has kind of shared with me how he feels alone and he sees the way that people look at him when they arrive at the property, like in their state vehicles or in their Mercedes and stuff like that. And I think the film portrays that and his sense of loneliness. But I don't really see Luther as a lonely person. I don't think he feels like a lonely person because he has himself and he's had a lot of time to sit with himself and be alone with himself in ways that majority of people just don't. I think a lot of people have a hard time being alone and looking at themselves in the mirror and really examining their life and really thinking deeply about their experiences and how they feel and what they want out of life and how they can actually find peace. So, like in Luther's film, like he talks about his whole life looking for peace, and something he was craving his whole life was peace, and he finally found it. And a large part of that peace has to do with his creations, right? His birds that he makes. Um, and I think that creating is the key to feeling satisfied with your life. I think the only way to really feel true passion and joy is to bring things into this world that didn't exist before. Um, I don't see art as like a high and mighty, you have to be classically like trained and go to art school, and I just don't think any of that's true. I just don't feed into that. I think that art is about play, and art is messy, and if you want to experience the joy of art, you have to learn to not take it seriously, and you have to learn to play. And there is a level of discipline that I think that can come with artistry and creativity, um, but I don't think that it has to be that way. And I think that Luther shows on camera just like how healing and transformative having art in your life can be, and just how fulfilling it is to bring things into this world. And I think that's why like he doesn't feel as lonely as he looks. And I think that the film kind of portrays that, like he finds joy and peace and harmony in creating. And I think the same goes for filmmaking. And I I think that artists have all these traits of resourcefulness in them, and I think that's what really makes artists great, is their resourcefulness. And so filmmakers don't just use like a lens and a computer to make films. Like a lot of filmmakers incorporate really interesting stories. I think that story is a huge part of art. Like the most interesting pieces of art have a story behind them, or they tell a story, um, or it is somebody's story, or it's a part of their journey. It's an artifact of their life. I think that's what makes certain films especially beautiful. And when I first arrived at the farm at Penny Lane, I actually noticed Luther's birds first. Before I saw anything else, before I even knew I was on a farm, I saw his beautiful cedar birds, and they were all hanging outside of his workspace. And when the wind blows, the birds like flap their wings, and it's really, really, really beautiful. They have a beautiful like sleek shine on them, and so they captured my attention, and I wanted to talk with him and give him a compliment on the birds. um, and I have always been interested in woodworking. I just think that there are so many things you can do with wood. I love the feel of wood. I think we all like wood. Like if you don't like wood, I don't know what's up with you. But I feel like Luther is resourceful in a particular way with his wood. And so this didn't make it into the film, but he actually goes and scavenges all of the woods along the property for fallen cedar trees. And he will drag entire trees through the woods back to his workspace, which I never got the chance to see him do, because I was not there 24/7. But he finds like fallen trees and brings them back and makes these birds out of them. And he goes into the woods and finds grapevines that are, I mean, ultimately suffocating trees, like constricting the trees and killing them. And so he's pulling these grapevines out of the woods and turning them into like really beautiful ornaments. And I think that that's awesome because somebody buys that grapevine ball or that bird from him and puts it in their yard. And when you have somebody come over to your house and they see a beautiful piece of art or creation and they're like, "Oh my God, I love that. That's so cool." It doesn't only like make you feel good, but it feels good to be like, "Yeah, I know this guy who makes them." And he's like right down the road. Like Luther sells his birds locally. He's known as the bird guy. And so I think that that helps create a sense of community. And I feel like I would really like to have some of Luther's wood because I now carve wood since working on this film. And I didn't think that it had to do with Luther, but I took up wood carving last summer and have really grown fond of it. And I've actually thought about like going to see Luther and like asking him if I can have some of his wood scraps because he has like really good cedar and he has a really good eye because he was a logger. And so I see myself like in that resourcefulness piece too. Like I want to take the little bits of wood that he doesn't use and turn them into cool little things of my own. And I think that as artists, we contribute to what I like to call the creative economy. And somebody might have already come up with that word. I don't know. But when I think about the creative economy, I just think that it's kind of like our financial economy, right? Like the more we buy, the more we put out into the economy, the better the economy does. And so in the creative economy, I think that the more we create, the more we connect with other artists, the more we support other artists. It goes above and beyond an artistic community. It becomes a creative economy collectively. And I think that art creates community. And I think that communities create art together to create the creative economy. But I think all around, um, Luther does have a good sense of community because of his birds, because people know him for his birds. Yeah, so I actually made my first feature length film when I was 17, which is insane to me now because I could not do that today. I just had like a really great group of friends in school and recruited like as many people as I could to like be a part of my film. And I wrote the whole thing and I casted the whole thing and I directed the whole thing. And it just like worked out perfectly. And I think that like the circumstances to create a film are difficult in adult life, especially. Like I miss being a student and just having like more people around to create. And so something that I would say to first time filmmakers is like get out there, be around people, like even if they're not filmmakers. Like people will still be interested in your films and people love to be extras and people love to act even if they've never done it before. Like film is an interesting thing. People actually want to be on screen. And that goes for documentary filmmaking too. People want to be a part of your documentaries. People want to support your work. And that took me a long time to realize is that like, oh, people actually want to see me do this. And I think I struggled most when I was much younger. I've been doing this for 10 years now, and when I first started, I saw other filmmakers as competitors. I saw other people with cameras as competitors, and that is absolutely not true. Other people with cameras are your teammates, and you should take as many opportunities as you can to work with other people. Something that we've said in the business since the beginning of time is that it's all about who you know. I believe that, but it's not all about who you know, it's about who you are. If people like working with you, they will have you come back every time. They will pay you more than everybody else, even if they're better than you, because they like working with you. And so I would just say, like, be a joy to work with. Do your best to always show up to set and have a great attitude. Have fun. People want to have fun on these shoots. I cannot tell you how many shoots I've been on that we were just standing there and it was so boring and it was so painful. And unfortunately, like that happens to a lot of PAs. But I want to say, like, have a good time. Enjoy this craft. People want you to have a good time and they want to have a good time with you. And just definitely don't look at other people around you as competitors. We all want different titles and we all want to do different projects and we all want a lot of funding for our projects. But the truth is that, like, you just have to genuinely enjoy what you're doing. Um, and I think that work will find you and projects will find you. And you will find your own projects with the people that you're enjoying spending your time with. First project. I think starting your first project can be the most intimidating thing that you can possibly do. But I would really like for first time filmmakers to know that it doesn't matter how your first film comes out. And it's not going to be perfect. And it's probably going to be something that you lock away in a vault after a couple of years. The first 5 years of my work are not publicly available, and I will never show them to other people. Like, my first film that I made was so bad It's hilariously bad. It is a relic of my lifetime, because it is so bad. But I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's my baby, but I will never show people that weren't there for the premiere because they just won't understand what it was like making that film. And so, touching back on something I said earlier about like play and messiness, first time filmmakers have to learn to play and experiment and be messy and just try. Like, it really does not matter how your first couple projects turn out. You just have to do the best that you can and learn as you go. If you're not learning throughout your filmmaking process, you're not growing as a filmmaker. And my biggest piece of advice that I could possibly end on is take the advice of other filmmakers. I cannot tell you how stubborn I was as a very young man entering this industry and wanting to do it my way. I would be probably 10 years ahead in my career if I had just listened to people. Um, Now, granted, like I started this kind of work when I was 16 years old, so like I was quite literally a child. Um, but I went to film school and came out of film school and like broke all of the rules and really just slowed my progress because I wanted to figure it out myself. And I thought that I want to do it my way because it makes more sense. And it could have been just that I didn't understand, but wish that I could have accepted that I didn't understand and just did what people told me I should do anyway. It's not like I lost jobs and blah 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 blah. It's nothing like that. I still made a good living doing what I'm doing. But I think overall it's just like my progress was way slower than it is today. Like how I see like people that I mentor, like they progress way way faster than me because they take my advice. And so, it's not like my way or the highway. It's okay, I'm going to handle feedback with grace. I'm going to try to do what people tell me to do. If somebody tells me to like have a backup for my backup, like I'm going to take that seriously. I'm going to take the advice of other people seriously and just be a good student to film. And I think that that's the best thing you can do as like dedication to your craft is like be a good student of your craft.